Listen to me. Before you ever think about outsmarting anybody, before you ever walk into a room trying to dominate it, you better make sure you've dominated yourself first. That's the battlefield. That's the war. You think it's about intellect? You think it's about how slick you are with words or how much you know? Nah. The real power, the kind that intimidates without saying a word, comes from mastering your inner world. See, too many of you are trying to outplay people when you haven't even dealt with your own weaknesses. You want to outthink someone, but your thoughts are running wild. You want to stay 10 steps ahead, but you can't even sit still with your own thoughts for 10 minutes. You're fighting on the outside, but losing on the inside, and you wonder why it never lasts. You wonder why the same cycles keep repeating. Let me tell you something that might sting. Dominance starts in the dark. When no one's watching, when the cameras are off, when you're alone with your demons, your doubts, your insecurities, that's where the real champions are born. You don't build strength under the spotlight. You build it in silence. And that's why most people never taste true power. Because silence is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Sitting still and confronting the voice that says you're not enough is uncomfortable. But you want to outsmart the world. Start by outsmarting that voice. Outsmart the voice that tells you to stay in bed. Outsmart the one that says play it safe. Outsmart the urge to react emotionally every time someone disrespects you. Outsmart the fear that paralyzes you when opportunity knocks. That's how it starts. That's where total dominance is born, not from books, not from hustle alone, but from internal clarity and command. When you gain control of yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, people can't touch you the same way. Their words don't shake you. Their status doesn't impress you. Their shade doesn't faze you. Why? Because you've already been through worse within yourself. You've already climbed higher mountains inside your mind. You don't get shaken by storms when you've already built a house that can handle the wind. And I need you to hear this part loud and clear. Peace is the ultimate flex. You hear what I'm saying? It's not anger. It's not being loud. It's not trying to be the smartest person in the room. It's peace, that inner calm, that unshakable stillness. That's what makes people lean in when you speak. That's what makes people respect you without you ever having to demand it. The loudest man in the room usually has the most to prove. But the one who's calm, the one who speaks with intention, the one who can walk away from nonsense without losing his cool, that's the one who owns the room. That's the one who's already won the game. You can't dominate people if you're still dominated by your triggers. You can't lead others when your own emotions are leading you. You want power, real power, then learn how to pause, learn how to breathe, learn how to sit in chaos without letting it enter you. Learn how to observe instead of react. Because when you do that, when you operate from a place of control instead of confusion, you don't just outsmart people, you outclass them. This ain't about playing mind games with people. It's about being so rooted, so grounded, so stable that no one can play mind games with you. It's about being 5 moves ahead because you're not rushing. You're not reacting. You're calculating. You're watching. You're learning. That's what the greats do. They don't chase dominance. They become it. Not through force, not through fear, but through mastery. And mastery starts with the self. Master your morning routine. Master your focus. Master your ability to stay present. And that's when you begin to rise. That's when your presence begins to carry weight. That's when you walk into a room and people feel it even before you speak. So stop trying to beat everybody else and start beating that version of you that keeps slipping through cracks. That version that always has an excuse. That version that folds under pressure. That version that wants to be great, but isn't willing to sit still long enough to get clear. Dominate that version. Because once you've mastered your inner world, the outer one is yours to command. Let me tell you something most people miss. This game we're in, it's not just about grinding harder or talking louder. It's about knowing people, really knowing them. You want to outsmart anybody? Then stop focusing so much on being the smartest and start focusing on being the most aware. Because when you understand people, when you study their patterns, their fears, their dreams, you stop reacting and you start predicting. That's the edge. That's the advantage that separates average from dominant. See, some of you walk into a room and all you do is try to impress. You try to show off your knowledge, your strength, your credentials. But the ones who really own the room, they walk in and just observe. They're not saying much. They're listening. They're studying. They're watching how people move, who speaks with authority, who speaks validation, who folds under pressure. Because once you can see people clearly, you can lead them, influence them, and yes, outsmart them. This world is built on relationships, business, leadership, influence. It's all people. And if you don't understand how people work, you will always be outplayed by someone who does. That's why I study human behavior like it's a weapon, because it is not to manipulate, but to navigate. Because when you know what drives someone, you know what steers them, you know where they're going before. Let me give it to you real. Most people are not operating from logic. They're operating from emotion. From wounds they haven't healed, from fears they don't talk about, from insecurities they try to hide behind status, success, or noise. And if you can see that, if you can tap into what's really going on, you've already won. You can move around them, through them, beyond them, because you're not playing checkers while they're playing chess. You're playing a whole different board game. You want to dominate in life? Learn to read people like you read a playbook. You watch their tone, their body language, their timing. You pay attention to what they don't say. You catch the patterns, because once you see the pattern, you can see the outcome. That's what awareness gives you. It gives you the upper hand without ever having to lift your voice. And this ain't about being fake. Don't get it twisted. This is about being intentional. This is about recognizing that people reveal everything, if you know how to look. Their fears are in their hesitation. Their goals are in their energy. Their insecurities are in their need for validation. But if you're too caught up in proving yourself, you'll miss it. You'll miss all the cues, all the leverage, all the signals that would have put you 10 steps ahead. I'm telling you, the greatest leaders, the greatest players, the ones who rise to the top, they're not just strong, they're strategic. They understand that it's not always about who has the most power, it's about who knows where to apply it. And that requires studying people with intention, not judgment, with curiosity, not arrogance. You don't need to control everybody. You just need to understand them better than they understand themselves. You ever wonder why some people just seem untouchable? Like no matter what's happening, they always end up winning. It's not luck. It's not magic. It's that they're 5 moves ahead because they see 5 layers deeper. They understand how to talk to different personalities. They know when to push and when to pull back. They know how to make people feel seen, feel heard, feel important. And when they do that, they win influence. And influence is a form of dominance. But here's the key. It starts with empathy. Yeah, I said empathy. Real dominance ain't cold. It's not about being distant. It's about seeing people. When you see them, when you really see what's behind the words, the posture, the image, they feel it. And when people feel seen, they start to trust you, follow you, open up to you. That's power. Quiet, subtle, unstoppable power. You don't need to out-yell anybody. You don't need to force your way into anything. All you need to do is learn the language of people. Because when you do, you'll never be behind again. You'll walk into any room, any boardroom, any negotiation, and you'll know exactly who you're dealing with and exactly how to move. Because at the end of the day, it's not about being the smartest in the room. It's about being the one who sees the most. Everybody wants to win, but nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to fall. Nobody wants to fail. But I'm telling you right now, if you want real dominance, if you want to outsmart anybody, then you better start falling in love with setbacks. Yeah, I said it. Fall in love with them. Not because they feel good, but because of what they give you. Because every setback has a lesson in it. And the ones who rise to the top, they collect those lessons like treasure. You're trying to avoid pain, avoid embarrassment, avoid looking stupid. But those are the exact things that teach you how to dominate the game. That L you just took, that wasn't a loss. That was a lesson. But the reason most people stay stuck is because they keep reliving the pain and never unpack the wisdom in it. You keep crying over the fall instead of asking yourself, what did that fall show me? You're mad about being overlooked, but you never stop to ask, what did I miss in my approach? You feel betrayed, but you never ask, what pattern did I ignore? See, life is constantly testing you, throwing blows, setbacks, closed doors, not to break you, but to build you, to sharpen your instincts, to humble your ego, to show you how to move smarter next time. But if you're so focused on the wound, you miss the weapon being handed to you in the pain. You want to outsmart people? You want to dominate the room? Then stop folding every time things don't go your way. Learn the art of taking the hit and coming back with a blueprint. Every hit is data. Every failure is information. And I know it hurts. I'm not going to lie to you. Getting played hurts. Losing money hurts. Wasting years hurts. But let me be real with you. Pain is the price of elevation. There's no shortcut to greatness that skips struggle. If you see someone winning consistently, I promise you they didn't avoid pain. They mastered it. They used it. They didn't just bounce back. They leveled up from it. That's the difference between average and unstoppable. See, most people, when they hit a wall, they retreat. They go back to what's safe. But when you're built different, when you're committed to total dominance, you don't just recover, you reinvent. You fall, and then you evolve. You take the lessons, the bruises, the scars, and you turn them into strategies. You turn them into systems. You get better, sharper, faster. And the next time you walk into that same situation, you don't fold. You run it. You got to be willing to look like a fool before you look like a genius. You got to be willing to lose in front of people before you can lead them. Everybody wants the throne, but nobody wants the trials that prove you belong there. Let me ask you this. When the lights go out, when the plans fall apart, when the people you counted on walk away, who are you then? That's where it's decided, not in the wins, in the losses. In the in-between moments when no one's cheering, when your back's against the wall, that's when you learn how to dominate. That's when you realize that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the training ground for it. You learn your blind spots. You learn who you are under pressure. You learn what's weak in your foundation. And once you fix that, you're dangerous. Because now you're not just confident. You're proven. Not by the applause, but by the fire you walked through and didn't quit. And let me say this. Don't let the setback make you shrink. That's what most people do. They take one L and start dreaming smaller. Stop doing that. You didn't come this far to retreat. You came to learn, to grow, to adapt. The comeback is always stronger than the setback, but only if you lean in and extract what the moment came to teach you. Some of y'all keep repeating the same cycles because you didn't learn the lesson the first time. Life will keep teaching you the same class until you pass the test. So start asking different questions. Stop saying, why me? And start asking, what now? What did this teach me? How do I use this to move different next time? You got to get surgical with your losses. Break them down. Study them. Analyze them. Because once you understand why it happened, it can't hurt you the same way again. Every great player has scars. Every great leader has been broken. The ones who dominate, They didn't skip the fire. They mastered how to walk through it. And now they wear it like armor. That's why they move different. That's why they don't flinch, because they've already survived what most people are afraid of. So stop running from setbacks. Start running toward the wisdom they carry. Because when you do that, when you flip failure into fuel, you don't just outsmart people, you outlast them. You keep thinking the person who talks the most wins, the person who yells the loudest, the one who's always on, always moving, always posting, always proving. But I'm telling you, real power doesn't move like that. Real power is quiet. It's intentional. It's precise. The ones who are really dominant, they ain't running around looking for attention. They sitting still, calculating, watching, planning. And when they strike, it's clean, it's sharp, it's done. Let me tell you something I had to learn the hard way. If you can't control your mouth, you'll never control your momentum. You talk too much. You reveal too much. You respond too quick. You let your emotions push you into battles that aren't even part of your war. And every time you do that, you waste energy, you waste power, you waste presence. You're trying to prove how smart you are, how tough you are, how right you are. When the real ones don't need to prove anything. They just move. And when they move smart, not emotional, not reactive, strategic, precise. Because they understand that energy is currency, time is currency, focus is currency. So they don't spend it recklessly. They don't engage with everything that pulls at them. They don't show up to every argument, every disagreement, every petty little fire. Nah. And that's why when they speak, people stop and listen. Some of y'all are draining yourself trying to fight every battle. You don't know the value of restraint. You don't know the power of saying nothing. You think silence is weakness. But let me ask you this. When has yelling ever moved mountains? When has panic ever brought breakthrough? It hasn't, because pressure is handled in stillness. Dominance is displayed in composure. You ever seen a lion roar for no reason? No. A lion moves when it's time. It doesn't announce its power, it is power. And that's how you need to start operating. You don't have to let everybody know what you're thinking, what you're planning, how you're going to respond. Be the one who moves in silence and lets results do the talking. Stop showing your playbook before the game even starts. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're not ready. While they're running their mouths, you're refining your method. You're sharpening your tools. You're making your next move your best move. That's dominance. Not being everywhere all the time, but being exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there, with force, with focus, and with finality. It's like this. You ever see a master chess player make noise before a move? No. They sit in silence, studying, focused. And when they move, checkmate. One move, game over. That's how you win in life, with intention. You don't just react to life, you design your response. You don't just speak because you feel pressure to say something, you speak when it's strategic to do so. You gotta stop living loud out of insecurity. You gotta stop explaining yourself to people who ain't even qualified to understand your mission every time you over-explain. Every time you lash out, every time you leak your next move out of emotion, you lose ground. But the moment you start holding your peace, holding your power, moving in clarity instead of chaos, that's when you shift from playing the game to controlling it. I get it. It feels good to clap back. It feels good to prove them wrong. But what feels good doesn't always build you. You don't need to react every time somebody doubts you. You don't need to swing every time you feel disrespected. Sometimes the real flex is walking away, not because you're weak, but because you got bigger things to fight for. Because you know your mission is worth more than your ego. Or you want to dominate? Then master pause, master stillness, master silence. Learn how to gather yourself before you move. Learn how to think before you speak. Learn how to listen more than you talk. Because the people who listen the most, they always know the most. And the ones who know the most, They move the best. They move with accuracy. They move with force. So if you're really about this life, if you're serious about rising to the next level, it's time to shut some things down. Shut down the need to be seen all the time. Shut down the need to be heard in every room. Shut down the need to react. Because when you move smart, when you move with control, when you hit only when it counts, you don't just outsmart people, you outlast them.